There is something ancient within us, something timeless, buried beneath the layers of our modern identities. It does not answer to logic, nor does it obey the commands of the ego. It moves beneath the threshold of consciousness, like a river beneath the ice. And when it surfaces, we call it love, but this love, true love, is not what the poets or the dreamers have made it out to be. It is not merely affection or desire. True love is a mirror to the soul, and from that reflection, you cannot run. Here are 5 truths that reveal why you cannot escape true love. When we resist love, when we turn away from the one who sees us, who reaches toward our core, it is often mistaken as a form of independence, strength, or even clarity. But beneath that resistance lies something far more ancient and tender, the fear of being seen in our entirety. The heart, having endured betrayals, absences, and disappointments, becomes a fortress. Walls are built not out of hatred, but out of protection, and so when love knocks, gentle, real, disarming, it threatens not our comfort, but our illusions of safety. Love reveals, it doesn't simply offer connection. It exposes the fractures we hoped would stay hidden. It presses gently against the wounds we tucked away in childhood. It awakens the pain of past abandonment, the sting of rejection, the humiliation of not being enough. And instead of yielding to its call, we recoil, we armor up. We call it foolish, irrational, or dangerous. Yet what we truly fear is not the other, it is ourselves. Love acts as a mirror, polished by intimacy, and in that reflection, we are forced to face the parts of us we have neglected, disowned, or suppressed. This is why true love cannot be superficial. It touches the unconscious. It speaks directly to the soul's memory, where our unresolved emotional truths lie dormant. It asks us to become more open than we've ever dared. But to do so would mean dissolving the masks we wear for the world, the persona of strength, of detachment, of stoicism. And so, the resistance to love is not a rejection of the beloved, but a rejection of vulnerability itself. Because to let love in is to risk collapse. It is to surrender our defense mechanisms and let another witness the inner architecture of our being. But here's the paradox: the more we resist love, the more it reveals. Our avoidance becomes the very evidence of our inner fragmentation. The walls we've constructed begin to tremble under the weight of what longs to break through. True love does not rage or demand, it simply waits. Patiently, silently, at the threshold of our self-imposed prison, it lingers, not to rescue us, but to invite us into our own healing. The pain of resisting love is the ache of an inner self longing to be met. And in that ache is the message, not that love is the enemy, but that we have mistaken the reflection for the threat. What we flee is not love, it is the power it holds to dissolve who we thought we were, and awaken who we are destined to become. You may walk away, you may change your address, your habits, your entire lifestyle. You may cut off contact, burn the letters, delete the photos, and even convince yourself that what you shared was a mistake, a detour, a temporary madness. You may date new people, laugh again, find distractions in routine or ambition. But there will come a silence, a stillness, a certain hour of the night or moment in solitude when their presence returns. Not in form, but in essence. Because you can leave the person, but not the bond. True love is not confined to physical closeness or verbal exchange. It is not dependent on shared schedules, text messages, or proximity. When love is real, it plants itself into the soil of your psyche. It becomes part of your symbolic world, woven into your unconscious like a root system beneath your waking thoughts. Even when the person disappears from view, their energy continues to live within you. The bond is not just emotional, it is archetypal. You did not merely connect to their body, their voice, or their behaviors. You connected to the image of the self they mirrored back to you. This is why even years later, a scent, a song, a dream, or a fleeting face on the street can reopen the door to that sacred connection. The world may move on, but the soul remembers. Not out of longing or weakness, but because something meaningful happened, something that marked you, transformed you, challenged your identity, and demanded the real from you. That bond bypassed the ego and touched something far more permanent. Many try to numb this connection. They label it obsession or romantic delusion. They reduce it to chemicals or mistake it for trauma, bonding. But these are often the strategies of a mind uncomfortable with the depth of what the heart has undergone. We live in a culture that values detachment, quick closure, and surface healing, yet the soul does not heal by erasing, it heals by integration, and bonds forged through true love must be honored, not severed. Even when both people change, even when they grow in opposite directions, the bond remains, not as a chain, but as a thread of meaning. It may no longer call you to reunion, but it will always call you to remember what you became in its presence. That bond may have awakened your capacity for truth, for devotion, for pain, or for surrender. And those awakenings do not vanish when the person is gone. They become part of who you are. So understand, walking away may end the relationship, but it does not end the transformation. You are no longer who you were before them, and you never will be. The connection continues to live, sometimes quietly, sometimes fiercely, but always faithfully, not to torment you, but to remind you that you have been touched by something eternal. You are not haunted by the past. You are being called by the sacred echo of a love that revealed the infinite within you, and the soul never forgets such revelations. Love, in its purest and most piercing form, does not merely comfort, it confronts. It doesn't arrive to gently soothe the ego's longings. It arrives as a storm, a sacred disturbance, a crack in the facade you spent years constructing. True love does not affirm who you pretend to be. It illuminates who you truly are, even the parts you would rather keep buried. And so, when love enters your life, it brings with it a mirror unlike any other, one polished by intimacy and angled toward your hidden self. This mirror does not show only your beauty, your tenderness, or your grace. It reveals the shadow, the unacknowledged fears, the manipulations cloaked in kindness, the insecurities masked by charm. Love brings the unconscious to the surface, not to shame you, but to make you whole. You are not simply falling in love with another. You are falling into a confrontation with the parts of you that have remained unresolved. Love becomes the trigger, the wound, opener, the summoner of all that has been exiled within. It is through this sacred encounter that all your inner contradictions rise. The need to control, the terror of abandonment, the impulse to withdraw, the hunger for approval, all of these fragments come surging forth, not because love is wrong, but because love dares to challenge the internal order you created to avoid pain. The beloved, often unknowingly, becomes the gatekeeper to your unconscious, pressing against the very wounds that shaped your personality. You think you are angry at them, afraid of them, or dependent on them, but what you are truly facing is yourself. This is why true love can feel unbearable. It dismantles your narratives. It destroys the image you try to project into the world. It asks you to look into the eyes of another and see reflected there your neediness, your jealousy, your unhealed grief. But this confrontation is not cruelty, it is alchemy, for only by facing these shadows can you integrate them. Only by being exposed can you be reborn. Many retreat from this stage. They confuse the discomfort of shadow work with incompatibility. They believe love should be effortless, that struggle means failure. But those who flee miss the sacred fire. They miss the chance to become conscious. Love, when it is true, is not a fantasy. It is a call to inner revolution. It demands self-honesty. It strips you of illusion. It burns away everything that is false until only what is real remains. So when you find yourself trembling before love's gaze, do not harden, do not run. Lean into the burn, stay in the mirror, because what you are truly facing is not your partner. It is the unloved self within, and through this fierce and painful reflection, you are being offered a rare invitation to become whole, to reclaim what you have denied, to emerge not as the mask, but as the totality of your being, light, shadow, and soul. In this way, true love is not the end of your journey, but the beginning. It does not rescue you, it reveals you. And from that revelation, you can no longer return to who you once were, because now you have seen the truth, you have seen yourself. There is a silence that comes after love ends, a kind of quiet that doesn't feel like peace but like absence. In this silence, the mind begins its work, rationalizing, justifying, rewriting the story to make sense of the loss. It will say it wasn't real, or it wasn't right, or I've moved on. The mind, ever the servant of survival, seeks order, clarity, finality. It wants the past sealed, labeled, and buried, but the heart does not operate by such rules. The heart remembers in ways the intellect cannot comprehend. The heart stores experience not as data but as energy, sensation, vibration. It remembers not the sequence of events, but the feeling of being seen. It recalls the silence between words, the resonance of a shared glance, the feeling of home that had no visible form. While the mind reaches for logic, the heart pulses with memory, not cognitive memory, but cellular memory. It remembers being held, not just physically, but psychically. It remembers safety, laughter, the taste of presence, and no argument, no theory, no distraction can convince it to forget what touched it so deeply. Time may pass, new faces may appear, but the heart does not mark time like the clock or calendar. It marks significance, and what was significant does not decay with distance. It lingers quietly, like a note that continues to echo long after the instrument has gone silent. You may find yourself suddenly weeping at a song you haven't heard in years, or waking from a dream where they appeared, not as a stranger from the past, but as a living presence. These moments are not accidents. They are the heart's way of saying, I still carry this. You cannot reason your way out of what transformed you. The heart knows what it felt, and it does not lie. The mind may forget dates, minimize events, or deny the depth of what occurred, but the body holds the truth. The soul holds the truth, and this truth will rise again and again not to torture you, but to remind you that love was real, that you were alive, that for a time you experienced something sacred. We live in a world that idolizes forgetfulness. We are taught to move on, let go, be strong. But there is no strength in pretending something didn't matter. There is no freedom in denying the imprint left on your soul. True love leaves fingerprints not on your skin, but on your essence. And even when the relationship dissolves, that essence remains altered. There is great wisdom in remembering, not in clinging, not in fantasizing, but in honoring. In understanding that some connections do not end, they simply change form. You may never speak again, you may never meet again, but that love taught you something the mind cannot undo. It cracked you open. It made you real, and the heart, in its quiet reverence, continues to carry that lesson. So let the mind do its work. Let it organize, analyze, categorize, but trust the heart's deeper rhythm. It knows what mattered. It knows who awakened you, and it remembers, not to cause pain, but to keep alive the parts of you that were born in that love. Because what is remembered by the heart was never meant to be forgotten. It was meant to shape you. True love is not just an experience you have with another person. It is an archetype, an eternal pattern that lives within the psyche, waiting to be activated. It is not owned, not possessed, not created by two individuals who simply happen to find each other. It is something that descends upon them, moves through them, and transforms them. It is older than time, rooted in myth and dream, deeper than language, and beyond the ego's understanding. When true love touches your life, it does not just connect you to someone. It connects you to the sacred, to the timeless, to the soul's own unfolding. This kind of love calls from the depths, not from the surface. It is not concerned with compatibility lists, mutual hobbies, or shared goals. It does not ask for guarantees. It does not promise comfort. It demands authenticity. It awakens something ancient inside you, a longing not merely to love someone, but to become someone. A longing to grow, to confront, to merge with that which reveals your own mystery. The other becomes a portal, not a possession, a mirror that reflects what has always lived inside, waiting to be remembered. Because true love is not about completion. It is about initiation. The archetype, once activated, initiates you into a deeper dimension of being. You begin to dream differently. You feel more alive. You begin to question who you are and why you've lived the way you have. The familiar becomes foreign. The known becomes too small. You are no longer satisfied with surface connections, small talk, or shallow ambitions. You are now tethered to something vast and invisible, a force that drives you inward as much as it pulls you toward another. This is why the experience of true love can be overwhelming. You are not merely falling for someone, you are falling into your soul. The other acts as the sacred flame that lights up your interior world. Your shadows rise, your dreams intensify, synchronicities follow you like whispers from the unseen, and even if the person disappears from your life, the fire remains, because the archetype, once awakened, cannot be put back to sleep. You may try to forget, to suppress, to silence the impact, but the change has already occurred. You have been altered. You have encountered something from beyond the personal, something numinous. You have touched the eternal. And that touch leaves a mark, not always visible, not always explainable, but undeniable. You are no longer who you were before you loved. You are no longer who you were before you were seen. And so, true love does not die with separation. It does not vanish when the relationship ends. It lives on, because it was never just about them. It was about the part of you they awakened, the archetypal movement within you toward depth, toward unity, toward becoming whole. They were the messenger, not the message, the match, not the flame. The real love was not what happened between your bodies or even your minds, but what happened in your soul. This is why you cannot escape it. It now lives inside you, not as a memory, but as a presence, not as nostalgia, but as an initiation into a fuller version of yourself. And you may spend the rest of your life answering that call through art, through silence, through dreams, through devotion, not to the person, but to the force that moved through them. Because true love is not a possession, it is a sacred inheritance. Once awakened, it becomes your task to carry its light forward, not in clinging to the past, but in living its truth more fully each day. True love, the archetype, is not bound to a face. It is bound to the soul's longing to return to what is whole. And once it stirs, you can never truly forget. You can only surrender to what it asks of you, to become everything you were afraid to be, in the name of something greater than desire, deeper than loss, and more eternal than time itself. So run, if you must, distract yourself, pretend it never mattered. But true love is not a chapter you close. It is a portal you step through. It will haunt you not as regret, but as a silent invitation to return to your truest self. Because love, real love, is not something you find. It is something you remember.